What's up, guys? Welcome back to Studio Owners Academy, the #1 resource empowering dance studio owners through education and community. My name is Asia, and today we're going to talk about financial management tips for dance studio owners. Financial management for dance studio owners can be such a tricky subject. There are so many expenses that come with owning a dance studio, so you have to make sure that you're on top of all of your expenses and your budgeting so that you can have a successful business. Today we're going to talk about budgeting, pricing strategies, and profitability so that you can make sure that your dance studio is successful. Number one, expenses. So our expenses come in two parts. There are fixed expenses and variable expenses. Your fixed expenses are things like your rent. Your variable expenses are things like payroll. So your fixed expenses are not changing with your dance studio. They are there to stay. A lot of the times things like your rent, most of your utilities, your insurances, they're all going to stay the same month to month and they're not going to change. Your variable expenses change with the increase of your business or the decrease of your business. So for our variable expenses, when I say payroll, obviously if you have a class that you're paying a teacher a certain amount no matter what, that's fixed. But if you're adding classes, that's something that's a variable expense. So for instance, my fixed expenses with my payroll are my kids' classes. I'm not changing my schedule until the end of the season. My variable expenses could be my adult payroll. They get paid a certain percentage per person. So if they have more people that come, then they get paid more. If they have less people that come, they get paid less. That's something that's a variable expense that changes. The reason I said some utilities is because your utilities and the usage sometimes changes based on the amount of people that you have come into your studio. So for instance, if you don't have a lot of activity in your studio, your utility bill for your electricity might be a little bit lower that month. That's something that can be a variable expense. The next thing that we want to discuss is our sources of revenue. For me, I have 5 main sources of revenue. That would be kids classes, adult classes, competition classes, daycare classes, and merchandise. So with those 5 sources of revenue, I calculate my total revenue, and that is how I pay my expenses. You want to pay attention to revenue trends. So for me, my revenue is not the same month to month. So for instance, with adult classes, we have adult classes every week, but there's some weeks that have more students, there's some months that have more students. And for kids classes, same thing. You want to make sure that you're having a good idea of which months are slower. So with some people, that's summer. So you want to go ahead and plan for those summer months and be saving up a part of your revenue from the winter months and the spring months to cover those expenses if they are changing, to cover those revenue changes. The next thing would be creating a budget. So I have a monthly budget for the studio, and you can go ahead and create a monthly budget that has the tracking for those variable expenses as well, especially if they are percentages, so you know about how much you're paying each month in expenses. I go ahead and create my short-term and my long-term financial goals to make sure that I'm on track to hit those targets. I also use a form of budgeting called Profit First. If you have not read that book, it's an amazing book, and it basically teaches you how to take a percentage of your revenue and allocate it to different things like profit, savings, tax savings, and things like that, so you're making sure that all of those areas are covered. Make sure that you're properly budgeting and allocating your money for those different areas, and also make sure that things that are yearly that you have to pay for are getting saved for on the side so that those expenses don't just come up, like taxes. The next thing is your pricing structure. So you want to make sure you're doing your proper research to make sure that your classes are priced accordingly in your area and what you're offering. I know for a minute I was actually so low compared to other people because I was thinking about the pricing that I was paying when I was taking dance 10 years ago, and I had to look at some of my friends' websites, some of my friends' dance studio websites, and talk to them, and they were like, oh girl, you're undercharging. And I had to go ahead and adjust accordingly because I could not understand what the issue was. Establish the pricing structure at your studio. What are people paying per class? Is there a sibling discount? What is the registration fee? Is there a recital fee? Are there competition fees? Go ahead and have all of that laid out so you can properly communicate that to your client. Not only do you need to communicate your prices, but you need to communicate your value as well. Keep in mind that price is only an issue when value is absent. So people, of course, if they think they're not paying for something that's valuable, they're going to have an issue with your price. But if you're communicating how valuable your program is, then you should not have a problem with your price. The next thing that you want to do is maximize your profitability. So if you know how many kids that you have to have in each class to make a profit, try to hit that number as fast as you can so that any additional children after that is just extra and it's your profit. Identify additional sources of revenue such as workshops, merchandise, things like that that can give you extra money, and make sure that you're always saving and having stuff that is set aside in your profit account. Also, if someone is already your client, your customer, make sure that you're upselling and making sure that you're offering them everything that your studio has to offer. So if they're coming to take a ballet class, you can always say, hey, do you want to try a jazz class as well? Oh, we offer hip hop on the same day. Do you want to try that class for free to see if she likes that as well? Make sure that you're trying to communicate the value of each of these classes and being a well-rounded dancer so that your clients can be more invested in you and you can invest more into them. You can also maximize your profitability by managing your cost. So make sure that your utilities and all of your fixed and variable costs are as controlled as possible. You can negotiate the cost for a lot of the things that you're using, a lot of the things that you have to pay for. Make sure that everything is as cost efficient as possible. And the last thing is just making sure that you're constantly monitoring and adjusting things accordingly. So for me, I have a certain amount of kids that have to be in each class for me to continue teaching the class. Sometimes you may need to adjust things. You may have to see, should we combine these classes? Will this be better financially if I have this teacher teach this class to a bigger group of students? Whatever you can do to make sure that you're managing your cost. Don't be afraid to make those adjustments, especially if it's something that's going to help your business. Go back and look at all those targeted long-term and short-term financial goals and make sure that you're doing what is necessary to hit those goals. That's it, guys. Those are the 5 steps that I have for you for maintaining your financial health at your dance studio. If you have any questions, go ahead and visit Studio Owners Academy and sign up for the academy so that your studio can succeed. That's it, guys. I hope you have a great day. I will see you next time.